Hey guys, welcome back. So today I wanted to talk about plumbing. Now I know we haven't talked about plumbing for a while, since about this video, specifically drain and vent. We get a lot of comments on that video in particular about our plumbing. So the comments range anywhere from there's going to be catastrophic failures and your house is going to flood, to everything in your house is going to freeze, to you're going to siphon out water out of your P-traps the way you did that, and you can't have wet vents and all sorts of things. So I wanted to kind of go over some of the mistakes we did make and some of the mistakes that people point out that aren't actually mistakes. So the first thing I want to start about is our upstairs bathroom vanities, which we get probably the most comments about. Now we couldn't find a double fixture fitting. So that would be a fitting where it has, in our case it would be 2-inch coming out of the bottom, a 2-inch for the top, and then two 2-inches coming out of the side on the same spot. So what we did is we put one drain a little lower than the other drain. Now this has caused a lot of controversy because people are saying that when this sink drains, it's going to siphon out the water from this sink. So I have a little test we're gonna do. I don't know if that's actually gonna happen. So what I have is a supply line that I've hooked up to our cold water back here. I'm going to shove it down into this trap over here and just turn it on full flow, because that's the fastest and most water, besides having both the hot and the cold on, but I don't want to waste hot water. So that's gonna be the most water we'll ever have going down this sink, right? Full open valve shooting into that, and we'll see if we siphon water out of this guy. So I don't actually know what's going to happen. I've never done this before, but as you can see, there is water in this one. It's clear, so hopefully you can see it a little better. And then this is the one we're going to be. So I might get rid of this trap altogether and just shove it into the thing, because I think that'd be easier. Let's see if I can't get this out without spilling all of it. Okay, pour this into there so we're not, oh, I'm dumb. Okay, pour this into here. Okay, now that I've spilled water everywhere, this guy I'm gonna shove in here. Maybe I'll shove it back that far so I can't see. I don't know. Here we go. Oh, crap. I haven't turned the water back on. I gotta go do that. Okay, I got the water back on, so now we should have water. I knew that was gonna happen, and I don't know how to combat that. Maybe shove this down into it so that, so there we go, that's full. You can see this pipe is full of water. We are just watching and waiting for this to get siphoned out. You know, I gotta say, this one's wiggling a little bit, but for having all that water going down, nothing's happening. We didn't siphon any water out. Interesting. So this is what was happening when I filled it up. Can't tell. So you can see all that turbulence, that's all water. So, and once again, nothing came out of this P-trap. Now, since we just got done with this test, I want to point out real quick that I'm not trying to say, no, boo-boo, like you guys are wrong. There's no doubt in my mind that if conditions were right, we could siphon out water from this P-trap with a higher P-trap. It's something that I see could happen, but something that I thought wasn't very likely. And with this test, I think that's pretty conclusive, seeing as the whole 1.5 inch, pipe was filled with water at points with pressure, that it's not gonna happen. So it's just kind of a thing to make me feel better, because if we did end up siphoning water out of this, I would have just used a double fixture. So I would have had both of the sinks go into one P-trap and gotten rid of one of these. So that wasn't too big of a deal. I would have just capped off the other one. But as you can see, that's not what's going to happen, at least in this case right now. Like I said, I'm sure there are conditions where that could happen, and this may not be the correct way to do a vanity with two sinks next to each other, so don't take this as this is right. I'm not sure about the code specifically, but that's what happened in this case. So we are not going to siphon out water out of this P-trap when we use this other sink. So that's good. The second thing I want to talk about is wet vents. With wet vents, as you can see, we're down here in our downstairs bathroom. So we get a lot of comments about you can't have wet vents, you can't wet vent your fixtures, blah, blah, blah. So what we've been using to plumb our house is this guy. It is Dewalt's Plumbing Code Reference Book. It is the 3rd edition. It is for 2015's International Plumbing Code and the residential codes. So this is what our codes are in Flagstaff, or the area I'm in, except we were actually building off of the 2012 because they hadn't adopted the update when we started building. So as far as wet vents go, what you can do is you can wet vent your system, which means that this bathtub doesn't have its own dedicated vent. This bathtub drains over into the 3-inch line coming from the toilet, and then the vent for the toilet vents the bathtub. So for wet vents, you have an allowable drainage fixture units per size of pipe. This is a 2-inch pipe we have draining the bathtub, which means we can get 4 drainage fixture units. Now I know that's a little complicated, but a bathtub is 2 drainage fixture units, and everything, automatic clothes dryers are 3, combination sink is 2, all this stuff. So everything has its own number of units. So a bathtub is 2 drainage fixture units. We have 2-inch pipe, and we can have up to a 4 drainage fixture unit load on a 2-inch pipe. Now, with a 4 drainage fixture unit load on a 2-inch pipe, I just had it, you have another table that gives you the maximum distance of the fixture trap, meaning the trap for the bathroom, to the actual vent. And for a 2-inch with sloped 1/4 inch per foot, which is what about we have, we can be 8 feet from the trap to our vent. So we are right next to each other. We are well within our 8 feet from trap to vent. The same thing goes with upstairs. Our shower is wet vented. We are properly wet vented. We're both within the 8 feet up there as well. They're more like 4 or 5 feet away. This one's like 3 feet away. So we're well within the restrictions on wet venting. And I'll show you real quick. So this is the drainage fixture unit, and as you can see, it's table 709 in the International Plumbing Code. And so if you go down to bathtub with or without shower, it is 2 drainage fixture units. If we go back to table 912.3, we can go and see that with a 2-inch pipe, we can have 4 drainage fixture units for our wet vent size. And if we go to the maximum distance of the fixture trap from the vent, we have 2-inch trap, 1/4 inch slope. We can be 8 feet away. Now the next thing I want to talk about has to do with our washer. Our washer's actually down here, and our setup is behind here, so I'll put a little clip in of what it looked like before we got all the drywall on, because we made a mistake. And our mistake is you can't use a main fixture stack, meaning the 3-inch pipe or however big pipe you have going from your 2nd floor to your 1st floor, which runs right there. You can't use that 3-inch stack as a vent. And so I didn't think about that when I did it, and this book kind of hurt me in this case. So with this book, it has diagrams of how you can go about plumbing different rooms. It will actually take you room by room and show you a little diagram. Specifically in the laundry room area, this is what the diagram looks like, right? And it tells you what each piece is. So we obviously have that, we're within our height requirements there, and then it goes over and goes up with a 2-inch vent and goes down with a 2-inch line. Now in my head, I thought, oh, that looks like our stack. We can just use our 3-inch stack as a vent, right? No, you cannot use a main stack as a vent. So this is basically what ours looks like in the wall. It goes down into a P-trap, and then that's not that long, but it goes over and then into the 3-inch stack. So going down to 3-inch pipe is fine, but we should have put a vent right next to it and brought that vent all the way up. That's the issue we made with our laundry machine. The other comment we get about our washing machine and that P-trap is that that's in an exterior wall. In fact, most of our plumbing is in exterior walls. Our showers in exterior walls, the supply lines, the sink, the kitchen sink. Upstairs, we have all of our second floor bathroom lines come up in an exterior wall. And we get comments about, oh, your P-trap is gonna freeze in your laundry machine, or your PEX is gonna freeze, right? We have had 0 issues with freezing. When it's really cold, we've gotten down to -5 degrees or -6 degrees in the past month. And when it's that cold, I come down and I turn the bathroom tub on just to make sure we don't have any freeze issues. I turn the kitchen sink on, we haven't had any freeze issues. We've done laundry really early in the morning when it's still below freezing, when we've had those really deep freezes in the -6 and -5s. And our laundry machine functions perfectly. We don't have any backup in the drains. So I'm not worried about freezing. Now, that being said, a house that got built right across the street from us, that was built brand new by a contractor, when they had their kids come over and stay for the first time, they found that their upstairs bathroom pipes, supply lines, would freeze overnight. And that wasn't even our -6 degrees days. Those were when we were getting down into the 20s or teens at night. So this is a video of a borescope going down into our laundry room drain. You could see the white corrugated at the beginning. That was the drain hose coming from the washer. And then you can see the reflection of the lights from the borescope, and that's the water. So we do have water in that P-trap, and this was a night when it got down into the single digits. Nothing froze. This was early in the morning, and it's still liquid water. Okay, so we're here in the crawl space because the next topic that we get lots of comments are our fittings. So these guys right here. So people keep commenting that we're using our fittings wrong. So here's what we used for our fittings. We used IPC 706.3 and 3005.1 charts, which go and show you what the fittings are and what they're approved for. So it'll show you what the fitting is, if it's approved for horizontal to vertical, vertical to horizontal, and horizontal to horizontal, if they're not approved, or if there's any stipulations. So that's what we used for every time we put a fitting together. We checked this to make sure it was the correct fitting. We used lots of combo Y and 1/8 bends. So this is a combo Y 1/8 bend, same with this guy right here. And we used that also for the laundry room. So we got specifically the laundry room combo Y 1/8, and someone said they didn't think we were able to use that to go from that horizontal to the vertical. So obviously, according to this chart, we are, but so that's what we used for everything. So those are the code charts, 706.3 in the International Plumbing Code, and in the International Residential Code 3005.1. So those are those charts that we used to determine whether or not our fittings could be used in the manner we use them in, and they all can. So once again, they all passed inspection, all tested, so it's all good to go. So we're back in the upstairs bathroom, and real quick, I want to talk about the other major comment we get about our plumbing, and it is regarding these PEX lines right here. Not necessarily the valves, but just the PEX lines themselves. So we used a manual PEX expander tool for all of our PEX. You can get an automatic PEX expander, which is a battery-powered one. It's much like a drill, and it's super easy to use. But the manual PEX was a lot cheaper, and it worked for us. One of the comments we get all the time is to rotate the PEX head as you are expanding it. So here's my theory on this. When you look at all of the instructions about how to expand the PEX, the reason you have to rotate the head is because there are little textured lines on the expander that help keep the pipe from just slipping out. So if you didn't rotate the head while you were expanding the PEX, those lines could dig in and damage the inside of the pipe and cause it to not seal properly when it's sealing over the fitting. That way you would have a leak. So by rotating it, you're rotating where those lines are, so they're not just digging in the same place every time. At least that's what the Apollo PEX manual says, right? So We get a lot of comments about how, oh, you didn't rotate the PEX expander, like you're gonna get leaks, it's not gonna work, it's gonna fail. So here's my thing. With the manual PEX expander, every time you're pressing on it, you have to open those jaws back up and come back out or push it in a little more. And it's kind of hard to do. It's not super hard, but you're struggling a little bit, especially when you're in tight spots and you're not putting that head back in the exact same spot in the pipe every single time like you would be with an automatic one if you're just sitting there holding it, pushing forward. You have that actual movement of your body, right? And trying to get more leverage into it to expand that pipe. So it says to rotate it 60 degrees every time you expand it. We definitely didn't rotate it 60 degrees, but it did rotate every single time. So there were maybe a few times when the PEX expander didn't rotate at all just because of where we were expanding it. Now those automatic PEX expanders automatically rotate the head, which is no doubt better. That being said, we tested the PEX up to 120 PSI for, I believe, 30 minutes, and then we brought it down to 60 PSI and kept it at 60 PSI for the remainder of the test, and we had 0 issues. The one issue we did have was when there was a defect in the brass fitting, so we had to actually change out the fitting and start over with a new one, and that solved our issue. So that's the only type of leak we had during our test, and then we've been running this system with pressure in it for about 3 months now, and we have had 0 leaks. So yes, those could cause a leak and you could damage the inside of the pipe and it could cause issues sealing against the fitting, but we haven't had any issues. I don't think it's as big of a deal as everyone's making it out to be. So hopefully if you saw one of our other plumbing videos and were confused by some of the comments versus what we actually did in the video, hopefully this video kind of clears things up. Okay guys, if this video is like any of our other plumbing videos, we're gonna get a bit of hate for it. So this video isn't meant to say I did it right and everyone is wrong, because there are lots of people who made lots of good points on lots of things we could have done better, but the big issues that people had, not rotating the PEX expander head, are vanities in the upstairs, siphoning out the other P-trap, and then what's the other big one? Oh, and our fittings. So those were the big issues everyone has, and those aren't issues. Everyone's codes are gonna be a little different, so our code might be different than one of those other person's codes, but you gotta remember that. Everywhere you go, people do things differently. We do things differently in Flagstaff than they do in Phoenix, and we're 2 hours away from each other in the same state, right? I appreciate everyone's comments. I do like when they're constructive and saying you could do things better in this way, or maybe in our area we do things this way, not just that's gonna fail, that's never gonna work, you're gonna have problems with leaks, you know, like you're gonna siphon out your water and the gas is gonna fill up your house. Like all these things aren't productive. There are probably better ways to do this like we talked about, but they're not the way we did it and it's not causing an issue. So if you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, click that subscribe button. You'll see all of our videos. Once again, I'm not trying to pick on anyone individually. I'm just trying to look at these things that we get comments about and people are saying we're doing wrong, and either justify them with the book I used, which if that book's wrong, so be it, or justify it with the test we did with the siphoning out. So you guys have a good one, and I'll see you guys next time. We're gonna get so much hate for this video. Oh God.